Nice and early today. Hope you guys are all awake and ready for some good races. We're doing the fifth place match today. The revenge of our runners against the terrible RNG that they've had to get themselves into this position. For those of you who are not familiar, this is a race to the top of the tower. Azure Dreams is a dungeon crawling game along with some town building and dating game elements. And our racers are going to be primarily focused on just getting as high as they possibly can today. Maybe all the way to 40. We've seen it a few times already, but ideally just higher than their opponent. So the primary condition for victory here today is getting higher than your opponent. If they both actually reach the same floor and die on the same floor, it'll be the person who got there first. So there is a bit of a bonus here for people for going fast, and there is also an hour time limit to prevent them from just dawdling around, power leveling. So it incentivizes our racers to be as crazy and as exciting as possible. To curb the RNG of the tower a bit, because this game is totally randomized, and there's no way to seed it so that they both get the same tower. We're going to be doing a best 2 out of 3. And for the first little bit here, we're going to get the cutscene. There's about 6 minutes before we're really going to get into the game. The first floor is actually set for the first round every time. They're going to get a set of about 5 or 6 set items that they're going to use to try and get themselves higher. And then generally we see them take a bit of time to build up their inventory so that they can make it the long haul. Your commentators for today, I am Dreamy. I'm here with Full Featureitis.
Hi there.
And hopefully we're going to get to cast some extremely exciting matches today. The tournament so far has been really good overall, I would say. I think it's been very exciting. Some really close races. Some really crazy RNG.
Oh yeah, both of these players have had ups and downs over the tournament, and they will only be hoping for a good match today. That's all that they really want. Donnchadh went out to Donnchadh last week, and Shauny7188 went out to Pelissonstead. Shauny7188 getting a surprising amount of terrible luck, and also one of the closest matches we'd ever seen in the first round against Poulet, fortunately losing. And now these two fantastic players are going to be playing each other today to vie for that 5th place spot.
So it looks like we're getting a bit of a disconnect here on the two of them. Not quite synced up, but I don't think it's going to matter too much in the long run here.
This is the first time that Shauny7188 will be playing on a PS2 rather than a PS3, which means that his loading times will be significantly faster than when he was actually in the running for this tournament.
Yeah, all of our runners are running on various different platforms. This game is a little tougher to find nowadays, being an older game that wasn't exactly super popular at the time, but one that I think everybody who did play it cherished dearly. So we allow, I believe, just about anything that can run this game right now for this tournament, because it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Yes, it only really matters at the beginning of the run because of the load times and the cutscenes and things like that. But once you get into the tower, the RNG will take over, and it's much more about your own skill getting out of the terrible situations that the tower will throw at you more than load times.
Yeah, this game is essentially, at least for this category of race, you are climbing the early floors pretty leisurely, and then you essentially hit a point where you're essentially curbing disaster after disaster as the tower throws everything it possibly can at you to try and end your game.
Yes, as they reach the upper levels of this tower, or even the midway point of this tower, every encounter soon becomes one that they want to avoid or get out of. And it'll be a question of how many resources do they find versus how many do they use correctly, whether they make any mistakes, and just how much bad or good luck they actually have.
Yeah, so we're seeing our runners do the tutorial floor. So as we said, the first floor here is just a set floor. There's no real danger they're going to pick up a number of different items that will help them get started. So a sword, shield, pretty self-explanatory. We're also going to see them pick up a fireball, which lets them use a long-range magic attack. It doesn't show it, but it actually has 5 charges. You will also pick up an egg that is for the weakest monster in the game. And the good thing about that egg is that later down the road, it does have a couple potential uses. In this game, you can hatch the eggs in the tower if you so desire, and that monster will come out at the same level as the floor you're on, up to the level that your player character is. And if you don't want to hatch it, for example, for something like fusing it, you can also just throw it at a monster. It will come out, hit its absolute hardest, and generally, hopefully, save you from whatever situation you're in.
Now, there's already a slight difference between how our 2 players are playing this level. Positioning and movement in this game is absolutely key, and you'll see that both players' familiar, who's called Queenie or Kune, or however you like to pronounce it. Sean has positioned Kune behind his back, and Donnchadh has positioned him to his right. Dreamy, how do you usually position Queenie, and what do you think is like the difference in their playstyles?
I usually use him on either side of me, but I play a little more aggressive than I think either of these two do. Shauny is a very methodical player, likes to take time to use the triple attack, so if you set your monster up behind you and then you set it to the first AI, you can actually back up and it will get a free hit on whatever monster you're fighting, at which point you would either switch it back to physical attacks or mixture magic. So in this game, there's a couple different ways that the monsters can attack. There is direct attacks where they just physically attack. There's direct magic for some of them that have that available, where they'll fire whatever spell they have off, or they can use mixture magic, where essentially you're putting you and your monster's attack power together for a singular attack instead of both of you attacking individually.
And apart from the behavioral differences, one of the other differences between all of these different AIs is the amount of MP that they use on their monsters. So as they climb the tower, all of their monsters' MP will be decreasing over time, and at some point that will run out, and at that point their familiars become unusable. The ability to direct attack is a more MP draining set of movement for the familiars. Mixture magic is less than that, and staying still or just falling behind is even less than that. They do have what is known as a Peter fruit on them, which means that they can recover their MP, but depending on how high they manage to get up, MP recovery can be.
So we already saw a little bit of good RNG over here for Don, who was praying heavily for it before the match. He actually got into a room with a noise, and the noise stepped on a go-up trap, saving him from being thrown up early. So as we said earlier, you know, the point of the tournament is to get as high as possible, but these first couple floors are extremely key for these runners trying to find any kind of rare or powerful item to try and help them weather the storm later on. And an early go-up trap essentially means that you get thrown up and then you don't get to explore that floor. Whatever treasure was on there is gone. So watching another monster step onto it and managing to avoid it was pretty fortunate here for Don.
Oh yeah, and there has been some good item pickup so far. I see that Sean has got a Mahel Seed, which will double any character's speed for a few turns, which is incredibly useful for escaping. And also, Don has a Tumna fruit, which is a very good fruit, which will turn anything into a frog.
Yeah, so there's a set list of items essentially that these runners are really looking for. They're trying to find better weapons, but the weapon that they're looking for the most would be either there's a set of weapons called wands that will actually boost your mixture magic. As Generally, these runners are not going to be able to raise a sword high enough to make a difference. The most damage that they can generally do is to use mixture magic, which means that the wands are always going to be the best choice for them. Some wands actually will inflict status effects on the enemy monsters, some will recover their life, and the one that they're looking for the most is called the Scarlet Wand, which will actually give them a 25% boost on their damage just because they're using the same element. Other than that, generally they're looking for items that are essentially one-shot kills. So, for example, Fee just talked about the Tumnut Fruit, which will frog a monster, which usually means that you can kill it before it comes back out. Things like Oleams, which you can toss to straight up just delete another monster. And the item that they always want to see the most, of course, is called a Rush Fruit, which will let them turn any monster they encounter into an egg, which they can then hatch, allowing them to essentially pick the strongest monster that they can find and use that to climb the tower with.
Yes, eggs in the tower are both randomly generated, so you're not always going to encounter them. And where you encounter them in the tower determines what range of monsters it can have. If you have a Roche Fruit, then you can pick whatever monster you want for your.
Yeah, so right now we're just starting to, at least with Shawnee, he's starting to get to the point of the game where he's going to start moving a little faster. Generally around floor 6 or floor 7 is where you really see the runners start to break off, accept whatever they've gotten, and start really going up. There are some runners that will take their time, especially if you haven't got any real solid items to get you through the higher floors. You might see them take an extra floor or two, but that's around the point where the monsters start getting dangerous enough and the MP starts mattering that you can't really waste that much time anymore.
And we've got some pretty good equipment luck for Don. He's managed to pick the diamond shield. The only thing that Shauny's managed to pick up is a steel sword, which of course is the best weapon, but it's but it's very rare, at least in runs, to get a full set of very good equipment. So the fact that Donnchadh has picked up a diamond shield is pretty huge. That's going to be a big reduction in damage, especially in the early floor.
He also just picked up his first wand, just a basic wooden wand, but it will make quite a big difference here. Shawnee, unfortunately, spawning into a room with a Manueva and a balloon, not really what he wanted to see, so he's gone ahead and thrown out one use of his fireball to deal with the water genus monster, because that is actually quite dangerous to his current monster. So it is a triangle of elements for the game, so water, wind, and water. And our starting monster here is a fire monster. So as you start getting above floor roughly 5 is when you start seeing a lot of water monsters for the first time, and that's when things start becoming dangerous.
Unfortunately, Donnchadh did hit a go-up trap on floor 4, so I don't know how much of that floor he managed to investigate before he got thrown up, but if he didn't manage to investigate most of it, that's going to be a very unfortunate loss of potentially helpful items.
Yeah, so I guess his luck has evened out a bit here. Prison trap, but it did not work for Shawnee. He's got to be feeling a little lucky about that. We are roughly equivalent on floors. Shawnee's got more floor 5 explored right now. He's probably going to go up quite soon, so just a slight lead for him. And especially in Azure Dreams, a slight lead is not going to carry you to the top.
Now, both of our players are either hoping that the other makes mistakes and ends up dying, and then they just have to pass whatever floor they were on if they were behind them, or that they can keep pace with each other and just eke out a short win, because both of these players have the capacity to go very high in this tower if the tower wants to be generous and if they don't make any mistakes.
Yeah, so it is worth saying that despite that we talked about how the lower floors are generally fairly safe and can be used to gather up as many items as possible, any floor after the first one can absolutely kill you. There are a myriad of traps that are extremely dangerous. For example, the prison trap that Shawnee managed to get hit by but survive. And that's not even the most dangerous one. The most dangerous trap in the game is actually a monster den trap, which just fills just about every tile in the room you're in with monsters, and it's very difficult to get out of there if you don't have something like an acid rain ball to rely on.
So Shawnee has opted to use a treasure loop, which reveals all of the treasure on a floor on floor 6. Usually floors 6 to 9 are the floors that we want to pass through the fastest. They are a pretty brutal set of floors to go through because they are all mostly filled with water enemies. But he's opting to use the treasure loop to try and find some items before leaving. He knows where the elevator is, and as far as I know where. He gets a deco scroll, which is very helpful in case he finds some. Yeah.
So we saw our first really bad shot of bad luck here for Don, who just had his monster step on a warp trap. So now his monster is going to be separated from him. He cannot, he doesn't know where it is. He can't really give it orders outside of letting it move or letting it sit. So for now, he's going to have to try and explore the floor and find his monster before it gets killed. It is already in combat, and while Kun is not the best monster in the game, he is certainly crucial, especially in the early game, to try and get as high as possible. Oh, and he did, in fact, lose his monster already.
Oh,
this is
no.
crippling for Don.
Now, while it's not the end of the run, you can get pretty high going Queeniless, but what he's really going to be looking for now is a restore scroll. A restore scroll will allow him to get Queenie back to dead and allow him to go back to the run as normal. But now he's going to have to be really careful about what he's doing.
Yes, so as we talked about earlier, your items in this game are crucial, and when you lose your monster, it is even more crucial that you find the items you need. He's absolutely going to be looking for a restore scroll, like she said, and other than that, he just wants any good item that can keep him alive to give him a higher chance of finding something like a restore scroll to get him up there. Shawnee actually having much better luck picking up an egg on floor 7. We will not know for a little while what that egg is, but in general, eggs are extremely good in most capacities because, as we said before, even if that monster is not something you're going to use immediately, it does give him a buffer. For example, if he loses his primary monster now, he can hatch another one that he can use. Even if it's not great, it's better than nothing. And at worst, they are always at least an egg bomb, which can save your life many times over.
Mm-hmm. Shawnee getting caught between a U-boat, which is an incredibly powerful monster, which is also water, and a bloom, and dealing with it fairly handily. That's not a situation that anyone really wants to be in.
We might see things come to a quick end for Don here. Actually just stepped on a confused trap, had to use a Tumna fruit on the U-boat, and is also trying to use his fire charges just to get rid of it, but he did recover from confusion. He will be okay, but he did have to use a lot of resources there because of the fact that he had hit another trap room. The trap's being extremely unkind to him right now.
Oh, yeah. Whenever, I'm surprised that, well, he's still got the U-boat in there with him on my side right now, but when you know that you've got 2 traps in the room, you know it's a trap room. What you can do is you can use whatever weapon you have to attack the spaces in front of you to activate the traps before you stand on them, which is generally very safe thing to do. But when you've got a U-boat that's a frog at the same time that will pop back to being a U-boat anytime, it's not a good situation to be in by any stretch.
Yeah, so now that he's lost his monster, he is not going to take any time trying to find items for the most part. He'll take ones that are right at hand, but beyond that, he's just going to try and get as high as he possibly can, given how dangerous it is at any given moment for him to be wandering around.
Yeah, he's looking for that restore scroll and anything else that would really help him, but only kind of on his way to finding the elevator. Because the longer he sticks around, the more chance he has of getting into a situation he can't get out of, or using up items that he would prefer to use up later. Even if you destroy monsters on the floors, they will randomly spawn more monsters over time, so the level will never fully clear off.
Yeah, so we saw Don use his egg to bomb a bloom there, just to open up the path to that room. We're seeing Shawnee get a little bit more liberal with his items. One of the rules in the tournament is that you are allowed to watch your opponent because there's no information that can be gleaned that can help you. But knowing that his opponent is actually in quite a tight spot right now will probably inspire him to be far more liberal with his item usage and just try and get as high as possible, because it's essentially just a war of attrition right now. Because if Dawn falls and he's not at a higher floor than Shauny, then Shawny's basically got this locked up.
That being said, Don seems to be getting a little bit better item luck now. He's picked up a lean fruits. He's managed to get some sands to buff his spells. So it's not all bad, but he just has to use up more of those items just to get by.
Yeah, we're also probably going to see him keep an eye out for a new sword, because without the mixture magic, it is better for him to be using a sword as opposed to using a wand, because the wands all have just a singular attack point. So we saw him do a clever little dance over the U-boat there, sadly not paying off for him as he runs into a Manuiva on the way. He might double back here or just go ahead and throw out an item. I probably would have tried to double back, but it looks like he's going to play a little more aggressive here. And eat a couple hits and just look for that elevator.
To explain a little bit more, U-boats have a dive ability, which means that they go under the ground. It means you cannot interact with them in any way, and they will always try to sneak up on you and get the first hit on you. The problem is that they're also very strong and very sturdy in and of themselves.
Oof, no fire charges left for Dawn. He is right near the elevator, so he's probably just going to go up. He does get the pickup on the monster. 50-50 shot whenever you try and pick up on any monster that it's going to let you. And he manages to hit another trap, but it doesn't go off. A couple things going very lucky there for Dawn, despite that he was in quite a bad situation. And he's going to keep his run alive for a little bit longer here.
Yes, still going very fast, and both our runners reaching, I think, floor 10 for both? Yes, both floors on floor 10, which is out of the waterfalls and into the fire floor.
Yeah, so trolls are making a return here, but they actually now have a ranged attack, and most of the monsters that they're going to encounter, other than Dreamins, are quite dangerous, and the worst one that they don't want to run into is the Griffins, because not only do they hit like a truck in close range, but they also have a spell called Pillar or Rise, which can hit from a long distance and do an enormous amount of damage. We did see Dawn use, I believe, Starglass here to try and help him avoid some of these monsters, pick up some items, and recoup a bit since he's had to throw away a lot of stuff. He did pick up a Pillar Ball, so he's probably feeling a little safer, and he's on his way to an item room right now. And a new sword and shield, hopefully something good for him. Just a leather shield and a steel sword. Steel sword is an upgrade for him, quite a bit from that copper sword, so he's going to feel a little good as long as it's not cursed, but still not better than something like a Restore Scroll. So I don't know how lucky he's feeling.
Yeah, Shauny's having to deal with this volcano. He's spent a lot of time positioning himself, and he's having to use items all over it. You hate to see that, because what you really want is just to get out of there.
And we see the triple attack coming out from Shauny, as he enjoys doing. Up to the 11th floor now for Dawn. Getting a little bit of a lead here, picking up a Paralysis Wand. Could potentially save him down the line. Even though it doesn't do a lot of damage, if you can stun a monster and walk away, it could save your life.
Yeah, and for Dawn, he has to worry about survivability. Sean has to worry about conquest.
Oh, looks like the Steel Sword was a +1. That's pretty fortunate for him.
That is great. Steel Sword, always good.
Always the right choice.
Always the right choice. Always the right choice.
So it's worth noting. Oh, and he tries to pick up the Dream, but it doesn't work. It does work on the second try. So one of the things to note is that you can kind of manipulate some of the monster AI based on where you are. So if you're on the edge of a room and they're in the room, they actually can't see you until they are basically right on top of you. As well as down the hall, I believe they can only see you within about 2 squares. So if you have an item like his copper sword that he doesn't need anymore, and you throw it at them from far away, it will sometimes reset the AI that they currently have, and they'll walk in a different direction. Dawn getting into a tight spot here, probably going to have to use the ball. Oh, and he does get away again with picking up the monster. Very brave. We are seeing Shawnee go ahead and prepare to hatch that egg. Might just be trying to see what it is. He might actually hatch it. We're about 2 floors away from Shawnee's end from being able to see up to 2 monsters. On the 14th floor, you can actually run across a second collar that will let you have 2 monsters out at a single time.
The 14th? I thought it was the 12th floor.
Was it the 12th?
I believe it's the 12th.
It's very early in the morning. You're probably right.
Yeah, I think it's the 12th, and that's why I would be surprised to see Shawnee going further up the tower without checking around for the blue collar. It's not a requirement to pick it up, but if you can, it gives you a lot more options, assuming that you get good eggs that you can fuse together, because unless you have blue collar, you cannot fuse monsters.
Oh, it looks like he had already picked it up. I imagine he's going to fuse this Cyclone right into his Kuni. So Cyclone's special ability when you fuse it is that any monster that you fuse it with only uses half of the MP, which will let him go quite a bit deeper into the tower with less items.
It will also change Queenie's element to wind, as far as I'm aware.
It does not. So it does not? It's the element that's higher on the triangle that takes it. So because fire is strong against wind, it will stay as fire.
Right, okay, that makes sense. And that means that the Gulf wand that Shawnee is currently using is still not as good as a Scarlet wand would be.
Both casters feeling a little bit of a sleep brain today.
Oh yeah, it is early for both of us.
Yeah, I am not used to being up this early. So
I'm used to it, but not used to being commentating.
Yeah. So we do see the blue collar also on the side of Dawn. Not quite as helpful since he doesn't have any monsters right now. Just passes over it. That's a surprising choice here. Yeah, he's just gonna skip it completely. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. The blue collar doesn't actually take up any inventory space, so there is no reason not to pick it up.
And he had about 3 opportunities to grab it there just on the way by with no loss of time, but he just chooses not to pick it up. Must not believe he's ever going to be able to have 2 monsters at a time, which is a fair belief, but still quite surprising. He does immediately run across an egg. I believe he had picked up a holy... Oh, he did not pick up holy bill. It was Shawnee. Okay.
Yeah, Shawnee
is going to be a bit of a tight situation here. Probably going to have to use some spell charges to try and get himself out of this. I don't know that I think shooting the volcano was better here. If that Dreamin' puts him to sleep, that is all she wrote. That Kraken is closing in quick, and it is a very dangerous monster. He might not have a good way out of this. He's probably going to have to throw that Olim and just keep firing with those magic balls. Oh, and he does get put to sleep. This might...
Oh, no.
And he immediately gets back up. A bit of good fortune there. He is going to have to abandon that egg at this rate, which is not what he wants. Nothing seems to be going his way right now. Shawnee climbing quicker and quicker. It's going to be a tough race for Dawn at this point.
Oh yeah, like as soon as you pass upon that blue collar and then see an egg that you could have gotten and then you can't get it, that's brutal.
Yeah, so he's got a monster train rolling here. So as long as they're behind him, they're not in front of him. But all it takes is one monster to show up in front of him, and he's going to be in a really bad spot. Coming back through the blue collar room with a volcano sleeping on it this time.
Oh god.
And he picks up the volcano. He is doubling back to try and get the egg. Probably going to drop that monster in front of them, force them to walk around it, and go grab that egg.
Yeah, that's one thing that you can definitely do in this game is because you can manipulate the AIs, you can try to circle around and get out of rooms previously.
Oof. So he did, in fact, manage to get the egg, but he does run across a griffin and then a Dreamin' behind it. Shawnee actually spawning into quite a bad monster room, but they're both in a bit of a tight situation here. Luckily, Shawnee's sitting on a holy bell, which will save him from just about anything in this room.
Yeah, Shauny reaching floor 16, which is one of the few rooms floors rather in the tower that a special monster called a Baron can spawn in. And because he's ahead, he'd be really looking forward to getting that, because that monster basically give you a roulette for any item.
Yeah, so the Barong, when you feed it an item, it will spit another item out, but unlike the rest of the tower, it actually does not pay any attention to rarity. So if you feed it something completely useless, there is a not zero chance that you will get a Roche Fruit or another similar extremely powerful item. So generally, as long as the runners are not extremely pressed for time or low on HP or anything like that, they will usually take the time if they run across the Barong to fish for some good items.
Yes, because at this point you've probably used up a couple of your items, and you probably have a bunch of items which are only marginally useful, and you just want to get rid of those.
Treasure loop use here by Dawn does pick up a Kraken friend following him. He did not get a chance to stop and try and hatch his egg, so he does not know what it is. So egg bombing is not a sure thing right now. Probably going to take this elevator right up. Despite that he had used his treasure loop, he won't get to use it because of just some bad monster placement. Essentially, Dawn right now, what he wants most is to get away from the monster trains, find an elevator, and then just try and hatch the egg as fast as he can. Hits a slam trap in a room with 2 Krakens. Shauny's still taking his time, looking through floor 16. No real danger here yet. He's still got a good bed of items to rely on. So he's in a solid spot right now.
I'm surprised that Don isn't using the truth glasses on his egg so he can just see what it is, because then he would immediately know whether or not it's worth... Oh, there he is.
Yeah, he just used it. It is a Kraken egg. So he does want to try and get that hatched. Kraken quite a bit stronger than your starting monster. If he can get it hatched, it will actually give him a good standing back in this game.
Yeah, it's a fairly good defensive monster. It's certainly not a fantastic game-changing monster to get, but it's better than almost anything else he could have gotten on that floor. If he'd have gotten a dream, he would have been very upset.
Yeah, the biggest detriment right now, unfortunately, is that because he's had to kind of scrounge to survive, his level is still quite low. So even if he does manage to hatch the Kraken, it's only going to come out at about level 7 or 8, depending on when he hatches it. We do see the Barong over on Shauny's side, so he's going to fish a bit here. Drops a fruit, could be a Roche Fruit. We might see something really exciting here in a minute, but he's going to have to deal with this troll before he can go and see what those items are.
Yep, you can even throw coins or anything else that you can throw into the Baron, and it will eat it. It will use up its MP to do that metamorphosis on that item, so eventually it will fall asleep. I'm not sure whether he has any MP restorative items to give to the Baron, but let's see.
So Dawn actually put on a windshield there to try and curb a bit of the damage that he was going to be dealing with. But it did turn out to be cursed, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
So he is definitely going to head over and just take that elevator at this point. Shauny going to head up here in a second and see what that fruit that dropped was after he finishes killing the Barong. The Barong is worth killing after you finish with it because it does give quite a bit of experience. So a CC, a Fire Orb, and a Pita Fruit, not a bad set of items here for Shauny after that.
He also got a blue sand, which is pretty reasonable, but he didn't get poor RNG at all. Could have hoped for better, but he didn't get anything bad.
Yeah, he definitely didn't get anything incredible, but he didn't get anything terrible either. So he's feeling pretty good about this. Still with a decent lead right now, but Dawn is closing the distance. And as you can see, not having your primary monster is a very good incentive to go as quick as you can.
Oh yeah. And another thing for Baron, just on the side, if it had dropped anything that was equipment, swords, shields, and like, all of those things cannot be cursed, which means that they are safe to put on right away.
Yeah, and if you think that Donnchadh is totally out, you gotta remember that earlier in this tournament we saw Donnchadh actually make an inspired run all the way to floor 40 after he lost his monster early on. So you never really know how this is going to go. He's in a bad position now, but he could absolutely bring this out. Both of these runners are very skilled. They're used to dealing with these situations. He is about to hit floor 16. We saw this once before in the tournament as well, where the runner that was running behind actually found a barong, hit the Roche fruit, managed to pick up an arachne shortly after, and it was a very exciting race from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sean showing off an ability of the Mana Weavers that is very upsetting once you get to these kind of floors, is that they can transform themselves into items in the ground to hide, and they don't show up on the radar, and he ran straight into it. He was able to deal with it pretty easily. He's not in a tough spot, but it is an awkward thing.
Both runners heading on up to floor 17. We're seeing our first picket here for Shawnee. He's going to be feeling pretty happy. That is his favorite monster as far as I'm aware.
Yes, it is. And it's also a pretty good, like, once you've gotten through all of the floors that we've gone through, floor 17/16 is the first floor where you can almost take a break, because whilst the pickets can be run threatening if they get into a bad situation, they're also worth a lot of experience points. So if you can sit and grind them out a bit, you'll be in pretty good stead for the next couple.
So our first Arachne here on Shawnee's side. So Arachne is a water genus monster with the highest attack in the game outside of monsters that you're going to see above the 40th floor. So they are extremely, extremely dangerous. And he's caught between two of them here. He's definitely going to have to use some items to try and get out of this situation.
Yeah, Arachne is one of the primary monsters that runners will try and use a Rocher fruit on. They're very good for just going straight up the tower, getting to floor 40. But yeah, being pincered between two of them, not a great thing to happen at all.
Yeah, it's worth noting that for the most part here, on Shawnee's side, because he's had his first familiar, he's been able to more or less fight most of the monsters in the game on relatively even ground, even though he's behind on levels from where you'd ideally want to be at this part in the game. With smart play and the correct items, you can usually make it through. Around floor 18, once you start seeing Arachnes and going to floor 20 and above, that no longer becomes an option. Most monsters that you're going to run across from floor 20 and beyond are not something that you can fight on stable ground without items, because all of them can more or less 2 or 3 shot you and your familiar. Gonna see Shawnee head on up to floor 19 from here. Don taking his time trying to avoid the large monster trains that are going around, still fishing for some good items. He has not been having any luck. Running to a level 1 troll, a little bit of a refreshing change there. Gonna pick up that fruit, just see what it is. Leo Lamb, only good if you have a monster. And he heads on up to the 18th floor. Shawnee's still holding at least a 1 floor lead. He's got to be feeling pretty comfortable right now.
Yeah, I mean, Don's doing a fantastic job trailing, like just staying on Sean's level or just below it. This is a very good queenless run.
Yeah, we don't want to understate just how difficult it is to make it through these floors when you don't have a familiar to buffer between you.
Yeah, and it's going to be even more awkward with the pickets.
Yeah, so he's holding on to the picket. Pickets, as we said before, aren't generally dangerous, but the problem happens if you run across a monster train. Then pickets become dangerous because they can just essentially leech away your HP, because they get 2 turns to every 1 turn that you get. So even while you're walking away from other monsters, they're going to be hitting you. That is a really bad room for Shawnee. No longer has a holy bell to rely on here. So he's going to have to do some creative thinking here to try and get out of this one.
Oh my goodness.
He could get away from this relatively easily, but the problem is that room has the elevator. Poisons all 3 of them. He's probably just going to take a walk here and let them bleed themselves dry, because he certainly doesn't want to fight all of them. They do have an ability, which they just used, where they can throw meat, and that meat will actually just override your monster's AI, and he will try and get that meat. Kuni taking a big hit here. Or I think he was hitting the enemy. I didn't quite see who was hitting who there, but that was a nasty hit. Looks like 2 of the wee dogs that were in that room were sleeping. And Dawn tries to pick up that Arachne, doesn't get it, does get it on the second try. Still struggling here.
I'm
And
surprised that Shawnee hasn't pocketed his Queenie or at least picked him up just to make sure that that meat doesn't interfere with him getting away from him.
And it does look like it was Cooney that had taken that hit there, so he's low on HP, doesn't really want to fight. He's going to try and bleed those wee dogs out as much as he can. This is actually a little bit of a bad spot. He might go ahead and use a ball here. I think he's decided that it has probably taken enough damage that he can one-shot it now. We're going to hope here. And they have, so he will be able to kill these two, get some experience, and that unicorn shouldn't be too much of a problem. Dawn spawning in the elevator room, closing the distance just a little bit. We'll have to take a hit for this, though.
What genus is a wee dog?
Wee dogs are the fire genus, so they're just
Right.
about on an even footing, but because they have such a high level advantage right now, they are still tough to fight. That one had slept through the poison, but it still bled down enough that Shauny was able to take care of it pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and regardless of what genus or what monster it is, having 4 of them in a room with you when you spawn in, and that being the room you need to get through, it's never a good thing.
Yeah, as we said, all the monsters are fairly dangerous at this point, even the ones that are a favorable genus for you. I believe we saw an egg to the left of the room that Shauny spawned in, but I am not 100% sure.
If he did, he probably noticed it, and that's probably why he's used the poison ball.
Yeah, I think he wants to try and clear through these blocks and go check and see if that was in fact an egg. Any egg on this floor is going to be pretty useful for here on out.
What do you like to see in an egg up on these floors?
For Shauny, I imagine he's hoping for either an arachne or a block. Either of them would be a huge pickup that he could then fuse into Cooney, get rid of the half MP, and just take the bonus stats because it's going to get him a lot farther. It looks like the egg might be further down, or it could have actually been eaten. So one of the things to be aware of here is that he's on the floors now with vipers. He's seeing the first one here, and vipers will actually eat any egg that they come across, and you have to kill them to get it back. We did actually see Shauny make use of this earlier in the tournament, where he managed to avoid, I believe it was 2 or 3 vipers by tossing an egg across the room and watching them go after it.
Yes, it's a great move. It only works when it's in a room, but it is a great move for getting out.
I was correct. There was an egg over there, and it had been eaten by the viper, so he does pick up that egg.
Oh, well. There it is, yep.
Yeah, he fed a CC to his familiar here to change the genus to give him a bit more favorable matchups. He still has some fire left, so he's not going to worry about the blocks too much, and it will help him when he's fighting the vipers, the arachnes, and most of the other, and the wee dogs as well. Uses the white sand on his fireball to keep it alive, and I believe he's going to start trying to hatch this egg. Yeah, so he's going to go ahead and try and get as much heat on that egg. So eggs, to hatch them, you have to take quite a number of turns to heat them up. They can start anywhere from the 4% that you saw on Dawn's side with his Kraken, all the way up to around 80 or 90% if you're extremely lucky. Shauny's egg did start on the low end, but luckily he hasn't run into any monsters, so he's going to take his time here, try and heat this up, and he's going to pray for a really good monster.
Yep, and Donna's going to pray for it to be a really poor monster so that he can close the distance whilst he's heating that egg. It does take a lot of turn.
Yeah, Dawn's still managing to keep it within 1 floor, doing a really good job here, just trucking along bit by bit, keeping himself in the race. We're coming up on the 15-minute remaining mark, so we might see Shauny start picking up speed if this is a really good egg.
Yep.
And it's a wee dog egg. Unfortunately, nothing very special, but it will spawn at level 17, so it's on par with his current familiar right now, and at any time he can also use both at the same time because, unlike Dawn, he did pick up that blue collar.
Yep, just as a reminder, we're only going to an hour. We're not going as far as these runners can go. So they do only have just over 15 minutes to get as high as they can.
Blind here shot out by the unicorn, but Shauny manages to escape it again. CC'd over for Dawn, nothing very good. I believe the other egg sitting in Shauny's inventory is still the Palumpa egg, but I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, I don't remember him using it.
Ooh, Diamond Shield. Good pickup for Shawnee.
Oh yeah, he was still using some of the earlier equipment. Not great equipment luck by any means from both of our players.
And he was actually sitting on a blue sand, so he's going to be using a Diamond Shield +1, which will help him deal with some of the more damaging monsters here. Not going to mess around with this Viper, going to go ahead and use his Fireball from far away. He should be able to just one-shot it now because he had switched his monster over to the Water Genus, and he will take a free hit. Yeah, just clears it out. No big deal for now. And once again, Dawn taking the elevator up. Shawnee finally building a 2-floor lead, but I don't know that it's going to last long. Dawn is still right on his heels. Anybody could take this game at this point. Shawnee getting a bit of luck here, hitting the elevator train one after another, which is exactly what he wants to see this late in the race.
Yep, because he cannot shake Don. Cannot shake him. He's going up so fast considering that he has no clue.
Yeah, so we're coming up on floor 25 here. At floor 26, there will be another chance to try and find a barong. It only shows up on floors that end in 6 after the 10th floor, but the problem is that on floor 26, the monsters are so dangerous that you can't really afford to go hunt for it, kind of like you can on 16.
Yeah, you'll be lucky if you manage to get some items out of it. It's very helpful if you do, but if you can't get it, then it's better just to go, especially if you have a lot of bad monsters incoming.
So Shawnee getting into floors where most of the monsters are wind type here for a little bit before going back to water type. So his current genus on his monster will be a little bit of a hindrance, but he still has a healthy enough set of items that he shouldn't have too much of a problem. He had thrown this stealth earlier. I was like, why is there a stealth just sleeping in the hall? But he had thrown it from the room earlier. Uh-oh. Dawn running across 2 Vipers. He does get the pickup. Dawn, with the very lucky pickups this race, just keeps rolling that 50-50 on the right side over and over again. He's very, very fortunate.
Yeah, usually that we would be seeing that more from Shawnee.
Yeah, so every time you fail to pick up a monster, it gets a free tag on you. And as I said earlier, you know, it only takes about 2 or 3 of those to end your race. He's going to head on up to the 20th floor, or the 24th floor. He is going to have to take a free shot, but he's going to take it to get up that elevator.
Yeah, hopefully you'll spawn into something amazing.
Yeah, the double Viper pickup. Very talented monster handling right here. Shawnee's stuck in between 2 stealths. Stealth's not very strong, but extremely weak to fire. He still has some fire charges. Not going to be too hard to deal with, but his HP is getting a bit low for comfort. He's probably just going to keep casting spells to try and get rid of it. The one exception to picking up monsters... Oh, no! So I was going to say, you can pick up a monster freely when it's asleep, but as he steps up on it, it woke up, and he's now stuck in between 2 Vipers and a block. This is a real bad spot for Dawn. We're going to have to see what kind of an item that he still has in his inventory to hopefully try and get him out of this. I don't know that he can tank the block. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's still dangerous enough. He does still have that pillar ball, and it does still have charges, so he should be able to get out of this.
Yeah, and block is one of those, one of the enemies that can end up paralyzing you, which in these situations would be instant.
Oh, and he's one hit. Can't afford to take a hit. He's going to have to use that ton of fruit and start going the other direction. He keeps getting blocked on both sides by these Vipers. Very, very unlucky. What he might try and do is he might look for like a one-notch road here and try and block it off, but he's not going to get the chance. I think this might be it. From the last I saw in his inventory, he didn't really have any good items left. He's got to hope that he can get the pickup here. Oh, he does have a medicinal herb. He's still okay briefly, but if that Zeus stuns him, that's it. What is he doing? He runs back towards the Viper. He does get the pickup. I don't know why he walked back towards that Viper, though. Putting almost no space between him and that Viper. If he runs across another monster, he's going to put himself right back in the situation he just got himself out of. I think he's going to throw this here and try and get them to walk away. He does get the Viper off his tail. Runs across another block. He doesn't have any pillar balls anymore. He might choose to use the medicinal herb here and then just try and walk by. He is going to go ahead and use that medicinal herb. Going to take 2 free hits here before he can get away. Oh, and it goes for the stun. This could be it. And he does not get stunned. His run is still alive for a little bit longer, so he's still trucking along. Shauny hitting the reversal trap. Not fun, but nothing super serious. So, oh no, I think that I've said it about 2 or 3 times on this far. Oh, and he does just straight up die. So Dawn had to stop and try and figure things out here, as he had seen that coming up ahead was 2 Vipers blocking his path. He did not have enough items to deal with all of them. As he was trying to think about it, he took a hit from the zoo. The zoo high rolled him, and he did drop. So Shauny is our game 1 winner here, having already reached the 25th floor with Dawn dying on the 24th.
What an interesting round. I mean, Dawn was right on Shauny's tail the entire race, even though he didn't have Kune, even though he was running out of items, but he was using those items really well, and honestly just got unlucky. I could have seen him going even further up.
Yeah, that floor was not kind to Dawn, just running into monster trains one after the other. No mercy from the tower there. And also getting high rolled by the zoo. I don't think he had any way out of that situation, but dying to a singular hit by that zoo was still not pleasant.
No, that could have been any number of ways that could have gone down, and that was kind of the lamest way that could have gone out, just getting punted by a zoo. All right, well, we're gonna get set up for the next round. If Shauny wins this, he'll take the match, but Dawn can take it to game 3 if he gets a really nice run in here.
And Shauny dropping on the 25th floor, 1 floor ahead of his opponent. Very close. If Dawn had been able to go a little farther, he actually may have taken that game, but RNG was not on his side.
Yeah, both players playing really safe, really well. Very few mistakes were made. I want to know what Dawn was thinking about that blue collar, just because it was just there, not because it would have been helpful to him, but just because it was there.
Yeah, it never. Luckily for him, it never would have mattered in the end. As we saw, he never got more than that singular egg, which he never got a chance to hatch.
Nope.
He always had monsters on his tail, but it was still a strange choice for sure. So we're going to let the runners get reset here and prepare for the next round.
Whilst we're getting set up and during the initial 6 minutes of cutscene and tutorial, if you have any questions in chat, just ask away and we'll answer them all whilst we've got some time on our hands. Yes, Ronlaw, I was thinking the same thing. It's really good to see the PlayStation 2 boot up. And I'm not quite sure what Donnchadh is using. I believe he's using an emulator. There is the capacity to use the original PlayStation, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and emulators for Azure Dreams. So you have a lot of options. And if you're interested in picking up this game, want to see more runs, want to try it for yourself, or just casually run it and talk to a bunch of people who are really up for this game all the time, I would thoroughly suggest joining our Discord server.
You can come and have passionate arguments with us about who is best girl. We all know that
Uh,
Selfie's best girl, but all your opinions will be taken into account.
Dreamy, could you post the Discord link?
I
Because I
will,
don't have
in
it.
fact, get that posted. Give me a quick second here.
Hey, Abstract Rude. Everyone sucks at Azure Dreams. It's the tower that hurts you, not yourself.
So we're kicking it off again with both racers. As we said before, there's going to be about a 6-minute stall time here as we get to watch the cutscenes and prepare for the first floor and beyond. Yeah, that's right. Another Selfie fan, best girl. Seeing Shawnee showing his love for fur. Shawnee clearly a gold digger.
I don't have an opinion. I have actually not finished this game casually. I have never made it to floor 40. And I also have not gone through all the storylines for all of the girls in this. So someone should tell me who my pick should be.
It should.
Selfie's currently winning with 2 votes.
Yes, Selfie is best girl, most cherished. We got 2 people joining the Discord already. Good on you guys. Get in here
Yes.
and join us for all of this.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, I have finished this game many times, fully finished the town, all of that. I spent an enormous amount of my team years on this game, probably more than I should.
Dali, Train 1. Yep, absolutely. Train 1 is actually a special wand. One of the reasons why we like wands, in addition to them working well with mixture magic, is because they do not rust. The problem with them is that they also cannot be increased using red sand, which is the equivalent of blue sand but for swords, which means that they can't be improved, except for the train one.
Yeah, so if we ever see one of the runners run across either a holy sword or a trained wand, we will probably see them pick it up. And it's totally possible. We have already seen a rush fruit or 2 on the floor, so you never know.
We've also seen a dark sword come up, which made all of the any of the bookless percent people very upset to see.
Yeah, so there are a couple items in this game that are extremely rare, and the only reliable way to get them is to fish for them with a barong.
Mm-hmm. And even then, it's quite common for people to either keep going up to floor 16 or to actually get a barong egg themselves, keep on going into the tower, keep on spamming items into the barong to get their perfect set of items for a 40. Not during a speed run, but actually just casual.
Scorcher bringing up the monster den. Make sure you guys vote in chat on who you'd rather see get hit by the monster den this run.
If we ever get a Twitch Plays version of, not Twitch Plays, but bits for game-changing things, spawning monster dens would be a horrific way of channeling that energy.
I think I would love to see an any percent race to 40 where they're allowed to leave the tower and you can use bits to place traps. I think that would tickle me greatly.
Yeah, I feel like even though this is a roguelike game, it's all RNG. Very much like Left 4 Dead, if it had the equivalent of an AI director that could be taken over by a player or Twitch, that would be terrifying.
So we're going to see the quick run through of floor 1 here again. Sadly, no way to avoid it. Not that you'd really want to, but I'm sure if they could avoid listening to their familiar tell them the same things they already know, they probably would. You do see a slight skip at the end of this floor where they take a quick shortcut to try and avoid the final speech, but other than that, all of this is more or less unavoidable, especially since most of it is tied to picking up these items, which they do need to just survive.
Yep, there are, I don't believe anyone does a no floor 1 equipment run. I feel like that would be a very boring run.
Be very difficult, that's for sure.
Definitely. There are ways that you can get into the tower without Queenie. There is a skip that you can do to get in, which means that you skip the entirety of floor 1's tutorial because Queenie's there with you. But it does mean that you do not have Queenie, which is why we don't do it during
Yeah, it's probably worth saying at least once during this this set of races that I believe these runners have both agreed that there is a singular banned monster in this race. So there is a monster that you can find later on called Garuda that if you grab, will essentially let you teleport nonstop. And for the most part, it has been pretty universally banned during this tournament.
Mm-hmm. I like to see it because I find it a very interesting ability. But yes, it is quite powerful. I think we've seen it. Actually, Shawnee in one of his previous matches was in a match where it was unbanned by consensus and was able to use it. Did not end up actually winning with it because it's not. It's not a golden ticket to the end, but it is a massive, which is why
Yeah.
we allow the players to decide amongst themselves whether or not they want to.
Yeah, while he did not win that race, it is worth saying that he had been incredibly far behind at the point that he got it, and he just about pulled himself back into victory. So, just goes to show how strong it can be with the right set of luck.
Paralyze 1 for Shawnee, which is a good pickup, especially in the stages. He's going to be wanting to change it up to a Scarlet Wand if he can get it, as it will be more powerful, but still a very good one.
Don taking a quick breather here, probably to recompose, and he's on his way again. Yeah, you can in fact fuse the Garuda with a Cyclone and then basically teleport nonstop. But even if you don't fuse it, the cost is pretty minimal, especially if you have any MP recovery items.
Yes, Starly. So it is a run as far up this 40-floor tower as possible. You have an hour to get as high as you can. It is, if you die, the floor that you reached, and if you got there first, then if both players die, the person who got the highest wins, or if they both got to the same floor, whichever one reached that floor first.
So Shawnee hit a warp trap there, probably had his butt clenched, but got warped into the room with the elevator, so he immediately took it, taking no chances. Does not want to end up in the position that Dawn had ended up in last round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even on these floors, you don't want to get separated from your familiar because it's very, very easy to be killed, and then you're going queenless like Dawn was last round.
Looks like Dawn lost track of his familiar already along the way. I'm not sure if he put it away or if he had it warped there. We're gonna have to wait and see.
Unless he got into a bad situation and he took a lot of damage.
Oh no, he did. He did just hit the warp trap.
Well, at least the monsters are with him rather than Queen.
Yeah, so he's got his familiar back. Not seeing a repeat of last round, thankfully. We want to see this race be a little bit easier for him, and hopefully something really exciting for the two of them.
Yeah, because Don was totally on Sean's tail the entirety of the last race. And so if he can hold on to Queenie, there's no reason why he can't blast his way through the entire tower.
Yeah, he might have been taking that breather to stab some pins into his Shawnee voodoo doll, hoping to send some of the bad RNG his way after his last run. Getting some pretty decent items here for Dawn. He's got to be feeling at least a little better than he did last time.
And Ice Rock Ball is pretty huge. That creates an Ice Rock, unsurprisingly, which will attract the monsters to attack it rather than you, which means that you can either sit by and just wail on them whilst they're distracted, or you can just leave.
Yeah, so once again, a 1-4 difference with Dawn lagging a little bit behind, getting back into the same groove as last time, but Dawn in a much better position. I don't assume that he's worried about it yet. Shawnee hits the warp trap, gets warped into exactly the same place. Getting very lucky here with traps these two games.
Yeah, he had that prison trap in the last game, which didn't matter. He got a few that didn't actually activate. Yeah, he's had a pretty good time with it so far.
takes his monster and steps on the trap himself to try and save himself some runtime here.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, a little clever move there to save a little bit of time. Picks up the Earth Shield. Let's see if it's cursed this time. Not going to put it on just yet, but yeah, the last time that we saw an Earth Shield in this race, it was cursed. It'd be kind of funny if it happened again. Crack Trap here for Shawnee, nothing crazy.
He can't currently put on that shield because the shield he currently has on is cursed.
Oh, he already got cursed.
Yeah.
Shield's not very lucky these two races.
Ulcifer, this is a basically just an exhibition match for 5th placement on the tournament scale. So yes, neither of these players can go on to win this tournament. They have both lost twice, which means they are out of the tournament. However, they are more than happy to go for final standings and just show some great Azure Dream running.
Yeah, it's been a very exciting tournament, and I assume they both are happy to keep doing some races here. Would probably be doing it whether it was for the tournament or not.
Even though it's very early in the morning, we get up early for Azure Dreams. I hope to be doing a catch-up run as well to place myself as well, because I am also out of the tournament.
Yeah, I've got to de-rust myself and prepare for the next one.
When is your next one, and who is it?
Well, I don't have one yet, but the next time this tournament runs, I'm gonna try and
yes, sorry, yeah.
get in and join everybody in the fun.
Oh yeah, I look forward to playing against you instead of just commentating with you.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I'll get to subject myself to all of this suffering.
But it's fun.
It is. The tower hurts us so good.
Yep. And the good thing is about this game is if you have a bad run, it means your next run is just as likely to be fantastic.
Yep. So we're seeing both runners take their time again. Shawnee again having a bit of a lead. But nothing terribly exciting yet. No really breakout items. I'd say both of them are sitting on a pretty healthy bed of items. A lot of roamers over there for Shawnee. He's got a nice garden salad building up.
And one of the things that I'm sure that both players are happy to be seeing is that they are hitting traps, and they are hitting bad traps, but the traps aren't actually making a difference in their runs right now. They're hitting warp traps and not having to worry about it, and Donnchadh actually hit a prison trap that the monsters were around, so if you're gonna hit a trap, do it when there's no monsters.
Oh, and the Earth Shield was +1. Nice pull for Shawnee here. So all of the early water monsters are basically going to do no damage to him right now. So this is going to be a nice break for him in the coming floors.
Yeah, with an Earth Shield like that, the monsters on these floors can do very little to you at this stage, which means that you can both explore the floors as you would like, just to find as many items as possible. And that's going to could end up being a big differentiator if Shawnee finds something that he likes. He may just decide to go fast though, because he knows that Don is a fast player and is able to make the best out of the situation.
Yeah, so how you balance the damage between you and your familiar is a big part of these runs. And normally you don't want your familiar tanking the water type monsters because they'll do more damage to them. But they're generally fairly strong, so it's tough to tank them yourself. But with this Earth Shield, especially with the +1, most of these water monsters are going to do very, very little damage, which means that he can split them up on him and the fire monsters on his monster, so he's going to have a pretty easy time splitting up the damage, which is going to make these floors fairly quick for him up until he gets to around floor 10, where he's going to start running into the really strong fire monsters.
Oh, 2 Tumna fruits in one room. Beautiful. Very, very good.
And a steel sword.
And a steel sword. Yep, see? It all works out. If anyone is wondering where all this steel sword shenaniganry is coming from, in an earlier match I passed up a opportunity to have an excellent wand for a steel sword, and now it has become a meme. Those in the Discord server just joining should be aware.
Yeah, so Dawn closing the distance here. They're both on floor 5 right now. Good inventories for both of them. They'll probably make it quite deep into the tower fairly easily, as long as neither of them runs into any really, really incredible bad luck. Shawnee giving away all of his roamers one by one, trying to fill his inventory with better items. So he's basically stacked out right now. It's going to be tough for him to decide what he wants to give up at this point. So we're probably going to see him start making a real go of it.
It's exactly the kind of problem you want to have, an inventory that is full of important items that can all be helpful, and you have to pick which ones you pick later.
Bloom hitting a bomb trap right after stepping in, and Dawn's still taking a bit of time to farm here. Yeah, gold swords are generally fairly cursed, pretty useless in these runs because you don't really have time to find the sand to boost them up, but we have seen a couple runs where people ended up using a lot of red sand on their copper sword because that's what the game was giving them.
Yeah, and gold swords are, like any swords, useful to be picked up and thrown because they count as the equivalent of using them yourself in melee, but at range. So it can be very useful just to pick up swords and throw them.
Treasure loop used here by Shauny, taking the time to use some of these items that he's built up, being well aware that he has the space right now to be able to waste some of these because his inventory is so stacked.
Donnchadh getting some paralysis on the Mana Weavers, helping.
Peter fruit pickup by Shauny, which means he doesn't really have to worry about his MP for quite a while at this point. And as we see, he's going to just start making his way up faster and faster. Probably going to see Dawn start doing the same thing. He did get a cursed shield, seeing a lot of those these two races.
Yeah, it's a sad thing when you find a piece of equipment you're only kind of half looking forward to. So what I tend to do is I will explore, like everyone else, up to floor 5 completely, and only at that point will I actually equip anything, because I don't want to equip something that's only subpar and find out that it's cursed, and then find something on floor 5 just as I'm about to go into the water floors, which is no good.
Yeah, there's a lot of really key decisions that runners can make to really show their personality and their styles.
I know that Shauny is one of the few runners who prefers to use physical attacks, but for the purposes of this run, it is better for him to do mixture magic. But given the chance, he would switch to a physical attacking creature like an Arachne, or even set Kuni to being physical.
Yeah, Shauny is, in general, a very methodical player for the most part, but we have seen him make the choice to play outside of his comfort zone a few times. In his race against Darcis, he did, in fact, play incredibly aggressive and fast, making for some really interesting races. Yeah, rust traps are very nasty when you're trying to build your equipment up.
Yes. Yeah, rust traps are a problem in this run, but also, like, it's just as bad as anything else that you would encounter in the tower. But in a casual playthrough, when you're trying to build up your items over a series of runs, it's very brutal.
Shauny's showing why the paralysis wand is so useful, getting a 3-turn stun lock on that U-boat.
Yeah, exactly.
And a monster train for Donnchadh, so he's probably just gonna head up at this point and start making his way up. Both runners now on the 7th floor.
The paralysis wand will paralyze for anywhere between 1 and 2, or is it 3 rounds?
He got it stunned for 3, but I don't know if he stunned it a second time at some point in that.
Right.
Ooh,
but it is
Scarlet Wad for Dawn, and
nice.
a Diamond Shield for Shauny, both picking up great equipment here. Dawn making use of his familiar's AI to just run some monsters out as he makes a move for the elevator and pulls his monster back, so he's not going to have to deal with either of these as he heads up, almost taking the lead, but Shauny also had found an elevator very quickly.
Yes, Zero Wagon Shauny are pointing out that the Mirror Shield is a very good shield. At the beginning of the run, you're actually looking more for a Diamond Shield because of the extra defense it gives, but the benefit of a Mirror Shield, especially later on in the tower, is that it will reflect back spells that are cast on you, which is very important later on, where that will be a ranged attack.
Speaking of mirror shields, Shauny actually finds one along the way, opts not to take it because he already has a nice bed of shields, sitting on a +1 Earth Shield and an unidentified Diamond Shield in his inventory.
Yeah, with those two shields, there's absolutely no reason for him to change to a mirror shield, especially on this kind of run. The Earth Shield, as we've mentioned, is going to be effective against defending against water creatures, which is what we care about most in this. But if he encounters a fire creature, he can swap with no lost turns to his Diamond Shield. He also found an Acid Rainbow, which is excellent too.
Yeah, Acid Rain, the strongest spell in the game, hits the entirety of the room for massive damage, is generally a one-shot unless there's too many monsters. It does split the damage up a bit as there's more monsters in the room.
It can have only 1 or 2 charges on it though, and you can basically just assume it's just a 1. So what he's going to be wanting to do now that he's got one is save any white sands that he finds so that he can, well, not save, but use them on the Acid Rainbows.
Yeah, any white sand he finds at this point is a massive pickup, and it actually insulates him a bit against monster dens, with the only 2 items that can really save you against a bad monster den being the Holy Bell and the Acid Rain Ball.
Or if you can, just leaving, but even then that's not always a thing.
Yeah, sometimes
you're not always going to be at the door.
Exactly, yeah. Sometimes you'll hit them right at the door, and you can just start a massive monster train, but there are going to be times where you hit them right dead center in the room. You're surrounded by like 10 different monsters, and at that point, if you don't have a Holy Bell, a Wind Crystal, or an Acid Rain Ball, you are just dead.
Yep. And with Monster Dens, I assume, because the level's already spawned in, that it doesn't change the number of monsters on the floor, so it's just as easy to get pincered when you're moving through the corridor.
Yep. Another decurse scroll here for Shauny. I don't believe he needs it, but yeah, so it looks like his Diamond Shield was not cursed. He's going to drop that old cursed shield, pick it up just in case if he finds a Scarlet Wand or something like that he might want to pick up down the road.
Mirror +2 shield, that's an amazing pickup. Sean's shield luck right now has been excellent.
And he hits the blind trap with a U-boat coming. A bit of a bad situation here, but I believe he should be able to fight it out even though he's blind.
Oh, another Scarlet Wand for Donnchadh, so that's unnecessary.
Yeah, so both runners still with a decent bed of items. Shauny definitely a little bit better of a set, but Dawn has in fact gotten ahead of him by a floor.
Yep. Drakatos, I'm fairly, well, not certain, but there are soft locks in this game when there are too many monsters in one single room and you try and do things to them. A monster den on a floor with just one room, which is totally possible in this game, I would be very upset if that happened.
Yeah, I believe, so there are some summon spells that you can get with fused mixture magic, and I believe if you use one on a singular flat floor with too many monsters, it will in fact just soft lock the game.
Yes, that is what happened on my casual playthrough. I was using a U-boat, which has a summoning ability which gets all monsters in the room, and without thinking I used it within a flat room, and that soft locked my game, and I lost not all my progress, it counts it as a death, so you lose all your equipment.
Yeah, Zero, you can sometimes find rooms with more than one elevator.
Yes. I can't remember if you can find 2 elevators in the same room, but definitely floors can have multiple.
Yeah, we've actually seen 2 elevators in a single room in this tournament.
That's so crazy. Yep,
so,
game's very rude.
Dawn still holding a little bit of a lead here, but both runners, once again, just within one floor of each other, always staying very neck and neck. We're going to have to see Dawn use a bit of magic here. Shauny might have to do the same, as they're both face down with quite a number of monsters.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what pushes either of these 2 players forward faster. Because whilst their inventories are very different, and some of them have, like Shauny has that Acid Rainbow, overall, I think they're reasonably even. I think the biggest benefit to either player is either that Acid Rainbow or the fact that Shauny just has so many good shields. But in the end, I'm not sure it's going to make a difference if Donnchadh just keeps going.
Yeah, I would say that Shauny definitely is a little bit ahead in items, but as long as Donnchadh keeps his lead, it could go very well the same way that the last one did, where one player just stays one floor ahead the entire game and never stumbles.
Soul Scorcher? Not particularly. It's not... in order to get the benefit from the elemental one, you need to change your familiar's genus, and you can only do that using items or fusions, which are much rarer to do, which means that you're not going to get the additional benefit of having the wand match to genus of your familiar, and also attack an enemy of a genus that is weak against that. Yes. So it's not as useful. What you do want to kind of see if you can get it, and I managed to get it on one of my runs, is one of each of the different elemental shields so that you can switch between those on the fly, which means that you're properly able to tank almost anything up to around floor 20.
So both runners struggling a bit with some bad monster RNG, but sitting on healthy bases of items. Neither of them really has to worry too much. I believe Shauny just used a Mayhel seed there to help him fight, and using a fireball, so he is starting to use his items a bit more to try and get himself back in the lead. And Dawn going up, just as Shauny finds the elevator, given a death grip to that lead. He does not want to let it go.
Yep. And assuming that our two players are watching each other, or watching the stream with our commentary, they are got to be aware of what floor the other player is on. And that means that there will be pressure on Donnchadh to keep going faster, and also on Shauny to keep going faster. So they might spend less time investigating the floors now. They'll start to try and get through quicker. They might burn more items. So it's a real interesting dynamic in what chances they choose to take and how they choose to get.
Yeah, we had an item extravaganza over here for Shauny. Finds a room with a ton of items, and also almost all of them being very useful items.
Yep, it's each of the rooms can have a tendency to spawn a lot of a certain thing. So we have item rooms, we have trap rooms, we have monster rooms. We've already talked a little bit about monster dens, which is its own thing. But yeah, seeing an item room is a big blessing.
Yeah, so Dawn getting a little bit luckier with elevators, but Shauny just keeping the monopoly on items here. Picks up the blue collar immediately, and then an egg. He is absolutely getting great RNG here, one after another.
I don't know whether or not Donnchadh has picked up the blue collar. He's left floor 12 now, which is his only chance to get that item. But he also doesn't have any eggs, and he still has Queenie, so maybe. Yeah,
Shauny literally having to just waste items at this point because he just has too much. It's
Again,
a very
best
good
problem
problem to have.
Yep. Finding an ice shield too, which is the one of the other elemental shields. So that means
Shauny getting a little cheeky in the chat right now. And you see the first use of the ice rock ball from Donnchadh, showing just how useful it can be to get away from a bad situation. Oh no! And he hits an upheaval trap as he's trying to pick up a shield, just blocking him off. We are seeing Shauny go ahead and try and hatch that egg, so we will find out sooner than later what is hiding in that egg, hopefully.
What is he going to be looking for here?
It's on a low enough floor that I think the best pull that he can get would be a griffin or a kraken. I think he was just on the cusp of where a kraken could spawn in. But we'll have to wait and see. He does get interrupted. He is just going to try and kill that monster, but with another one coming behind, he might choose to just go back up right after, as opposed to waste time continuing to try and hatch it.
Yeah, that enemy is a kraken, and it's a horrible monster to encounter. There's a lot of damage. You can't attack it without yourself.
Yeah, Yeah, so another benefit of having a wand is that because they're made of wood, they do not conduct electricity, so you do not take the damage from Kraken when you attack it, which adds up very quickly.
But your familiar will still do if will still take the extra damage if it attacks directly.
Shauny does go back to hatching the egg. He is determined to get this out. We do see the egg bomb from Donnchadh. Attacks the wrong monster. Very unfortunate here.
That's never what you want to see. Yep, it will pick a random monster. It will spawn in a certain square, and it will pick a random monster between the ones adjacent to it to attack. And if there's got a choice in it, you know it's going to pick the wrong one.
U-boat picked up here by Shauny. That's actually a massive pickup. He can hatch the Palumpa and then fuse it with the U-boat to get one of the strongest mixture magics in the entire game. The one that we were talking about earlier that can summon a dragon, I believe it is a water dragon, that will hit every single monster in the room for heavy damage.
Yeah, Shinra. It was my go-to one for my casual run, and I'd be really happy to see it again. He's going to be hoping not for a flat floor with it.
So 5 monsters spawning in a single room here for Shauny. All around him, goes ahead and uses the acid rain ball just to be safe.
Yeah, that's a good use for it.
Starting to struggle a bit with some bad monster RNG, and also starting to run out of items here a little bit. So we might see Shauny start to take the lead again.
Yeah, but Shauny's getting some good luck. Maybe not with the items he's picking up, but just the fact that there are items to pick up is always good to see. And he's got to be excited to get that U-boat sorted out and get it going.
Yeah, we'll probably see him get that hashed and fused. Oh, and he does pick up an Ice Rock Ball, one of the few strong balls that Dawn had that he did not, and he does end up picking it up. Shauny is in a great position here to get back into the race. Dawn showing just how strong that Ice Rock Ball can be, using it to block off 2 Krakens from himself to keep himself ahead.
Yep, that's a beautiful use of it. And being able to get 2 or more monsters off your back like that and form a barrier through a corridor, it's exactly what you want to see.
Shauny finally taking the lead here for the first time, I believe, in quite a while. And we're coming up on floor 16. We'll have to see if either of them takes the time to fish. With how tight this race is, they might not waste the time looking for it.
It's interesting because we are already over halfway through our time, but the floor number is much lower than last time. So both of our players either choosing or not being able to is more appropriate here. Be able to go as fast as they were last time. Pinched by 2.
Yeah, Shauny once again getting the stun lock while Donnchadh has to sort out once again getting pinched by Krakens. He is actually having such horrible luck on these floors with these Krakens. They are very clearly out to get him. Gonna have to use another charge of his Ice Rock Ball to get through this.
Yeah, these floors, you think that you've just gotten a break when you get out of the water floors, but then you get onto these floors and there's just Krakens everywhere. The pain train doesn't really stop at this point. You get a slight reprieve if you're lucky on floor 17 or so, or 16 with a Balrog. But it's brutal.
Yeah, Donnchadh getting really bad luck, getting attacked twice by the Kraken right beside the Ice Rock, so he did have to go ahead and use one of his medicinal herbs, not taking any chances there.
Yeah, the Ice Rock, it encourages the monster to attack it. It makes it fairly sure thing. I'm not sure what the actual percentage is, but it doesn't mean that they can't just come around and hit you as you go past them.
Another pincer. He is not having any luck on this floor. This has been a brutal floor. In the time that Shauny's gone up about 2 or 3 floors, Donnchadh has just been getting pinched over and over and over on this floor by strong monsters.
Yeah, this is a pretty bad situation.
We're probably definitely going to see him use the Ice Rock Ball here to block off those Krakens and give himself a bit of a break.
I think I would have played this slightly differently.
I agree. I think I would have taken that hit to block off those familiars. It
Yeah,
looks like he's going to sacrifice his monster here after that.
yeah, I think what he needed to do was use the flame. Sorry, not flame.
Oh,
Fireball.
another 2! Wow, this is really incredible. So Dawn went from being right on Shauny's heels to on the cusp of losing this entire race just by virtue of running again and again and again into monster trains on both sides. This is really, really just atrocious luck, and he's out of Ice Rock charges. I think this is it for him. I don't know that he can deal with all 5 of those monsters. He does have a Holy Bell, but without a room to use it in, he's basically screwed.
Yeah, this is an awful situation.
I think this is going to be the match for today. So we're seeing him try some shenanigans here with picking up monsters, but it looks like this is going to be it. And that is it. Donnchadh falls, and Shauny is the winner. 2-0 for today.
Oh my goodness. Yep, it was definitely a loss by poor RNG. Not really much you can do about that when you have pincered and then pincered again and then double pincered again. What do you even do? Like, there's some things he could have done when he was being pincered by the 2 Krakens and the 2 volcanoes. Getting rid of the volcanoes faster would have meant that he could have put more distance between him and the Krakens, but then he's got more monsters coming down again. So
yeah, as we talked about, he could have eaten that hit from the volcano to block off the 2 Krakens and the mule, but it would not have helped him because he ran into 2 consecutive monster trains immediately after. There really was just about no way out from there.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's the game. Like, in a game which has such heavy RNG as a roguelike game, especially Azure Dreams, which is a brutal roguelike game, you can't help but feel sorry for him in that. Not much he could have done there. If he'd have had some other items, then maybe he would have been able to get through. If the Ice Rock still had charges, for instance, or if he had a good pillar ball on him, maybe he could have forced his way through. But that's not a great set.
Yeah, so we're going to try and get the 2 runners here in for an interview. I imagine Donnchadh has some very interesting things to say after that last run. Just incredible bad luck. I think that might be some of the worst luck we've seen in the tournament so far.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I'm trying to think of another match where the luck was that poor. I've seen some poor luck myself in my runs, but not like that.
So we'll go ahead and give the runners a shout here and see if they want to come in for an interview. Welcome, you 2.
Thank you.
Hello. You guys have some interesting things to say about that one.
I never seen so much luck on my files before.
It was crazy. That last match was just so one-sided. Shauny getting just incredible item RNG, and Dawn, he was basically ahead of you the entire time until he hit 13, and then 13 just decided that was where he was going to lose, and it was just the worst luck I've seen in such a long time.
It was really hard floor, super hard.
Yeah.
The annoying thing is I'm actually trying to find a wind crystal now because I want to keep this file for the hardware, and I can't find a wind crystal.
Yeah, it was an incredible. Oh, there you go. Oh no, it was a fire crystal.
Yeah.
Typical, you can't find a wind crystal now that you want.
Yeah, I really want to keep this file with all its resources, but
yeah, do it.
Those races were extremely close up until the end there. That first race, Dawn, even though he lost his familiar early on, managed to stay right on your heels the entire time, despite all odds. And then that second round, he managed to keep a very small lead against you, despite your incredible item RNG. And then, yeah, as I said, he hit 13, and I think it was like 6 or 7 monster trains on both sides in a row. Like, it just depleted all his items, and then there just was nothing left that he could do.
Yeah, I was watching chat. Something about a Kraken sandwich happened, and then I tuned in just as he was dying. I'm like, oh.
Oh, it was multiple Kraken sandwiches. I've got to say though, Don, you were really impressive in that first match, being able to get up that tower and staying pace when you didn't have Queenie. That was really good play.
Thanks, V. I have been practicing that in particular. So I thought maybe I could hang in there for a bit.
You certainly did. And Sean wasn't too far behind you in terms of dying. He was only a couple
I
floors
know.
above you when he died.
Oh!
I didn't notice how bad he was, or how hard he was having that 424.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
that first race was very close, basically the whole way through. It really could have gone either way. If Shauny had hit just a bad trap or anything like that, it would have been it.
Don't worry, I illustrate that point exactly in a couple seconds on your side.
Oh no! Oh no!
So I don't get to keep his files. Oh well.
Oh wow, 43
Oh.
damage on a bomb trap. Yikes.
Yeah, that's why I don't like Earth Shields. If you get hit
Yeah.
by a bomb trap, it kills you.
oh, because the trap's also Genus Fire.
Yep.
Oh, brutal.
It's so brutal.
That Earth Shield is what kept me chasing you in the first round, though. So they do have their uses.
Oh yeah. Yeah, getting hit for 43 on floor 20. That's okay.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I'm really happy with how those races went.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah,
Really
I'm glad
fun.
you guys both had fun. You both played excellently. In the end, it just came down to bad monster luck, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that RNG, like I said, man, I really can't overstate it enough. That was an insane floor.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't feel terrible. I just felt like there must have been 6 Krakens on the floor, and yeah, not fun.
I had some annoyances with how many monsters there were, but I had the Earth Shield to back me up, and I was able to tank them all.
Yeah, that early +1 Earth Shield was humongous.
I got a +2 Mirror Shield, Diamond Shield, Earth Shield +1, a Paralysis Wand, all the spells I could ever ask for, all the Tumbler Fruits in the tower all in one go. I could not ask for anything more. And
yeah, you also had the U-boat with the Palumpa to fuse into it.
Yep. That was going to be my...
Wow.
Actually, it's actually going to be the other way around. I was actually going to fuse the U-boat into the Palumpa to keep it water and give it the de-heal spell.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just for cheap healing if need be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really something. Like we at one point we commented on the fact that Don could have eaten a hit from the volcano and he could have blocked off 3 of the monsters, and then as he got away from that situation regardless, and then it just immediately was like, no, it didn't matter because on the other side was a ton more monsters again. Like it was just I don't think anybody could have gotten out of that situation.
No, I did look at it briefly before when I saw chat going, oh dear. I'm like, oh, what's happening? I'm like, oh, I guess I won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was actually any way out of that without being in a room with the acid rainbow. I think would be the only solution.
Well, he was sitting on a holy bell, but he just couldn't ever get to a room to use it.
Yeah, that's what I reckon there was a way out of it, but I didn't know that there was a second train of monsters to face. So,
well,
there's only so much you can reasonably predict.
Well, I'm sure that our other runners will be dissecting that situation on Discord to try and figure out what they could have done to get through it. But that's not a situation any of them would have wanted to have been in. So,
yeah,
kudos to both of our runners for making it as far as they did. It was a fairly brutal tower for everyone except for Shauny in the second round.
Yeah, compared to how I got dropped out of the tournament with the second match, I'm quite happy. It is bipolar opposite for this one.
Yes.
I don't know if you noticed, Shawnee, I got a warp trap on level 3 again.
Oh, good.
So I thought I was going to lose at level 3, but managed to track down Kimmy.
Yes, Sean also managed to get a warp trap on, I think, level 3 or 4, but it walked into 2 spaces away from the warp trap.
There was one on floor 3. I got warped towards the elevator and just left, and then the second warp trap on floor 4 warped me 2 spaces to the left.
Oh.
So I managed to beat the warp trap twice. So.
Yeah, Shauny.
Definitely, that's some RNG.
Despite not
Good.
having great luck in the first game, Shawnee did in both games have pretty good luck with the traps.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Somewhat. The first game I always say skeptical. It was a little bit too many traps for my liking, but
Yeah, there's a lot
I-
of traps. Hmm.
like I'm just happy that basically what it boiled down to it is until I was trying to save the file, trying to find a wind crystal, nothing really killed me. But
Yeah.
oh well. I guess I don't get a good file to work on for hardware anymore.
You see, the
There's
tower
always
knew
that
that you wanted to leave, and so it was going to take it away
Yeah.
from you.
No, that's 100% true. This tower is stupid. I hate it. I love it. So
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you to our runners, Shauny7188 and Donnchadh H. Thank you to our casters. I'm Full Featuritis, and we've had Amy with us. And thank you to everyone in chat. Please join our Discord, follow our runners, and just become part of this great community if you want to see more Azure streams run. Thank you so much to Speed Gaming for hosting us, as always. It's been a pleasure. And looking forward to the next match in the tournament. Do we know what our next match is, Jamie?
I can check briefly. I don't know if it's been submitted yet.
Uh,
No, we are the only ones
Well,
submitted right now, but I do believe we're going to have some other placement matches as well as our weekly one this week still.
Yeah, I believe they said there's at least one more this week coming.
Yeah.
It should be Captain Luigi and Late.
Yes. Yeah, God, that's going to be a match of the Titans too.
Yeah, that should be
Yeah,
another
that's
really fun one.
Yep, so check the schedule, see if you can join us for that, and thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, we hope to see
Bye,
you
Thanks,
again.
everyone.
guys. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.